Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Amplify My Services. I am so excited for this interview today. If you're in the Asia Pacific, happy Friday. It's 3 p.m. here in Queensland, and I've got an amazing gentleman on the line by the name of Alan Stevens. He is a profiling and a communication specialist. Hi, Alan. How are you today?
Really good, Jazz. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. How's your Friday been so far?
It's been a busy day. It's been a few interviews and International Men's Day today. So we've been having some panel discussions, which has been great fun.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about International Men's Day, but before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what you do?
Okay, well, business-wise, I'm known as an international profiling and communication specialist, which means I help people to read other people, understand themselves first of all, but then be able to read other people to be able to build stronger relationships with them. So very quickly, your your facial features tell me your personality. And then when I'm talking to you, I've got your body language and expressions that then tell me your emotions. And put it all together, you got someone's their character very quickly as well. But I'm also the creator of the hashtag We Together and the Campfire Project, which is a safe place for both men and women where they can come together and give themselves permission to tell their stories and join in respectful conversations.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you do a quick profile on me, please, Alan?
Okay. Well, I know that you like to analyse things before you make your decision, so you spend a little bit of time doing that. But pretty much when you've made your decision, it's get out of the way and let me get it done. You just want to get into it. I know you're adventurous. You're fairly fussy about things too. They've got to be exactly right when you're putting them together. And you do like a little bit of space when you meet people for the first time. Not that you're not friendly, it's that you're more discerning. You want to work out who's safe to be around and who's not safe to be around. And it's all about how things feel inside more so than expressing outward. So when you've got something on your mind and you're working on it, leave Jazz alone because she needs to be left to focus to work on what she's working on.
Yeah, I was just thinking, need to focus, need the zone. Oh my gosh, that was 100% like, I feel like I was in a psychic type mode there. So that was amazing. That's incredible. How do you, I mean, obviously that's years of experience and knowledge and wisdom, but how does one get to a place where you can, profile somebody like that and be so good at it?
Well, in getting there, first of all, I'll point out to everybody, I used to be lousy at reading people. Right. 2 divorces, a lot of broken relationships, business partners who empty the bank out. I got there through absolute necessity because I was going to end up broken lonely if I didn't work that one out. So, but the modalities, as I say, I work with the facial features, which very quickly people might sound, oh, this is sounding a little bit woo-woo, a little bit for clairvoyancy. But if you think about it, if you lift weights, you work out, you exercise, you're going to build muscles. And the same thing that everything we feel inside, we express outwardly. That's why the body language and expressions work. And so you put those two together. When you sit and you're concentrating, working away, you're going to pull the same expression over and over again every time that you're thinking in a particular way. And those crevices and ridges you create on your face are then a roadmap of how you like to think and process, which is your personality. And then if you know where you are on the scale and you know where the other person is, you know how to change the way you want to be spoken to match the way they want to be spoken to. And as you're talking to them, then you got the feedback from their body language and expressions that tell you, have you read them right? Is there something emotionally going on in their end? And are they telling you the truth? And so I just took 4 different modalities, which are all classed as a science, and put them together in a format that turned it into an art form. Hence the sign behind me that says the science and art of reading people.
I love it's like the facial recognition thing that you talk about. Can you use me as an example of, do I have a mannerism or thing that I do with my hands or smile or whatever that, helped you identify that I am a certain way?
Now, well, first of all, as I said, the facial features, I can get that from your photograph. I don't need to see you in real life. So I jokingly tell everybody I'm a social media stalker. If I have to speak to you, first thing I'm going to do is go and look at the internet and find your LinkedIn profiles, your websites, Facebook, wherever I can find a photograph of you. And then I've got your personality fairly quickly. Once I've got that, then I know how you're like to be treated, and I can put a presentation together. You know, if you're going to be somebody I'm selling to, I know how to put that together before I even go and see you. Are you going to buy on the value, or is it the service? How much information you need? So therefore, how much do I have to put together? And so, because I know, as I mentioned before, you're analytical, and there'll be people that you've spoken to in the past, and everything could be going fine. Then all of a sudden, they've lost interest. Well, they'll be the ones who just want the least amount of information, the overview. They've got that. They're happy to go ahead. But if you can't read that, then you talk yourself out of the sale by giving them far too much information. So all those little things can actually help you to make a better connection. But again, where this comes in to start with, okay, I'm looking for a new partner, for instance. You know, what sort of a person do I want? Well, first of all, you need to know yourself. What is it that you really want in your life? Then you can find the facial features that give you an idea of how the other person will be. Once you know that, and realizing that every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside, the stuff that attracts us, the excitement that might be, say, with one person who's very laid back and they meet somebody who's very exciting, that's great. Over a period of time, though, the interest will wane away because they get used to it. Like things that we really, repeat over and over again, we get used to it, and the excitement wears off. And now we recognize the other side of the traits, misjudgingly think they've changed, but it's our perception that's actually changed. If we realize that, we know how to talk to them. So the first thing is how to be able to find the right person to match our personality, and then how to keep them as a long-term relationship. Then when your children are born, what sports and hobbies will suit them, what careers will suit them before they pick their final subjects. I can look at a young child and from the traits passed down from the two parents, tell you what they're going to be like when they get to school. Are they going to fit the education system, or are they going to have problems? Are they going to be mislabeled because they don't fit the system and be therefore put on the list of being on the spectrum and things like that? We can read all of that, we circumvent that. And so that's just the beginning of it. Then we take it into the workplace, building relationships there, sales. At the end of the day, relationships are the foundation of everything we do. And so therefore, being able to read somebody, understand them and connect with them, is the foundation of everything we do. It comes before we can provide a product or service. We never get a chance to show that great product or service we've got until we're able to build a relationship with that person, because they're not interested until that point.
Yes, 100%. And I totally agree with you, especially when we're in this online, sales and marketing world as well. And you talk about social media stalking, and I know a lot of people do that, but certainly not the way that you're describing, and understanding yourself, and then the other people can make it a lot easier to really deliver the value that they're looking for instead of what you think they might need. Because I know I've certainly done that in the past, and I probably will still continue to do that. But it's a really good point on self-awareness which is a really big piece that I love, and I've been on a bit of a personal journey for that. But thank you so much for analyzing me. And yes, everything that you said about me was absolutely correct. I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned you've been involved in something to do with International Men's Day, and what does that mean for you, Alan? Talk to us about that.
International Men's Day is an opportunity for men to be recognised for the good things that they do. It's not just an overall celebration saying, hey, every man out there, we'll celebrate them, because there are a lot of males who don't do the right thing. I've had two panel discussions, one last night and another one today, and in both of those panel discussions it came up, what is a man? I don't believe that we have good men and bad men. We just have men and boys. So we've got a lot of old males in their 40s, 50s, and even older who still haven't grown up. And so we need to look at them and go, okay, does that male I'm looking at have the qualities of a man? And that is being able to look after themselves, but also everybody else around them as well. So it's not a matter of just being the alpha male, because that is usually a place where people are in competition. And we've seen it in sports, we've seen it in education, we've seen it in our politicians, bad behaviour. And it's not just on the male side, it's also on the women's side as well, where people are trying to be the man or the woman instead of being a man or a woman. So I always work on, well, how can I be the best version of myself? And if I'm doing that, who do I want around me? Other men and women who are doing exactly the same thing. And so this is where I see International Men's Day coming in. And it's not a celebration just for the men, it's a chance for the women to be able to join into that as well. Because at the end of the day, the more that we can help men to become better men, the recipients of that are their partners, the community and their children and everything else. Whereas with if we're in competition, then yeah, I can see that we shouldn't be celebrating men if that's the case, because men are doing the wrong thing. It's a case of, well, how are we stepping up? How are we being seen in the world? We go through our rites of passage, we go through particular cycles in our life, and some of those, like especially the teenage years, yep, boys are going to be pretty rough and noisy and everything else. They're going to be loud, but that's part of them establishing where's their point in life. How do they fit into the community? Then once they get to that, this is why we need to celebrate men, because then the men who understand this can then step in and guide those boys to take all of that and turn that into a direction that becomes useful for the community and for them. And that's when they start to go into their going through their rite of passage, and when they're starting to move into becoming a man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that, Ellen. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask, because you mentioned how it's an awesome opportunity for women to really understand just what's going on in men's lives. And you said something about there's not do you say not good or bad, but just men and boys.
Men and boys. Yeah, I think we need to look at it that way, because if you tell a man he's a bad man, he probably doesn't care if he's in to that particular mind. But you tell him he's a boy, this is the only time I would say that the word man up really has a positive aspect. Because you'd say to a man who's behaving like a boy, doing the wrong thing when he should know better, hey, man up. That's going to change their attitude, because they're not like being called boys. We've got a better chance of directing them through. But every male is going to be a boy at some stage. I'm about to turn 70, and even at my age, I'll get together with some of the guys and we'll, yahoo and make a bit of noise and everything else. But we always do it with respect to the people around us. Whereas when we were teenagers, all we were thinking about was ourselves. So to have men around who were, with the right mindset to then say, right, guys, you have fun, you know where you sit in the position of things. Now this is how you apply it in a positive direction moving forward. And that's why we need to celebrate those men that are doing that. And there are a lot of men out there who are trying to be the best versions of themselves. And they need to be celebrated and recognised.
Yes, it's not about being... Yes. And I love how you said it's not about being the man, but just being a man. And again, back to the self-awareness, the best version of yourself as a male. How can us women help? What can we do, Alan, to really help in that sense?
Well, we came out of the conversation last night. We were talking about this quite deeply, and it was a case of the first thing, instead of telling your partners where they're doing wrong, talk about what you like about what they do. What is it, the things that are really great? Because the more they focus on that, now they're getting direction on where they can move forward. When you tell them what they're doing wrong, it's attacking their self-esteem, and of course they're going to put the barriers up. And so they're going to shut down, close off the doors. So if you talk about what you like about them, and then for the men, what we should be doing is then asking back in return, how can I be better? What other things could I do to improve the relationship? And then those conversations, when you're doing that, you're breaking it down, and the focus is on the good stuff, because we know in life, what you focus on is what you get. If you wake up every morning and feeling that life's a misery, it's always going to be a misery, guess what? Today's going to be a misery. But if you wake up and you go, right, okay, sun's shining, I'm breathing, I'm going to have a good day regardless, you'll end up having a good day, because you'll find the things that will allow you to do that. But if you focus on the negative, of course, you're going to get more of that. So I would always say to the women who are out there who feel that all men are negative, step back and have a good look first, because if you want to improve your life and be happier in your own life, you need to look at it differently. Give the men around you that opportunity by having conversations with them. And that's where things change. Always conversations. If you point the finger at somebody, they're going to put the barriers up. They're also going to fight back. So if you want to get your partner on side, tell them what you really love about what they do, And then the men ask, well, how can I do that better again? You're moving forward, not backwards.
Well, there you have it, ladies. Think about something that you love about your men or your sons or the men that are around you, and make the effort to just share that and communicate that today if you can. And I'm going to do the same too, because I'm hearing you, Ellen, and there's certainly a lot of times as a mother and a wife where I've been more than frustrated about wanting things to be done a certain way, because I am a controlling woman or wife or whatever it may be. And I haven't expressed, I guess that, how I truly, how I guess I focused more on what was not done opposed to the effort that was given in the first place. So it is important to, just, I guess, show some thanks and gratitude around that. And focus on the good things that our men are doing, because without them, we wouldn't have any life, there would be no life. I also share your same views about men with mothers, because I truly believe that if we can heal the mums, we can heal the homes. And when we get mums who aren't so stressed out all the time doing a million things, and we can learn to be more attentive to our husbands and better mentors to our children, it feels like a same but different.
It is.
If that makes
Well,
sense.
see, when I was, many, many years ago, my oldest boy now is in his early 40s. Back when he was 12 years old, I have 3 sons. They were 4, 11 and 12 at the time when their mum left. And so I was raising them mostly on my own. And one of the things I realised was that they used to go to her place one day a weekend. And one of the things one of my sons, who was about 18 at the time, said, he said, look, we're really lucky. And I said, why are you lucky? And he said, oh, we've got both you and mum. And I went, but we're separated. All your mates have got their mothers and fathers are living together. And they went, yeah, but they're fighting. You and mum don't. You don't bag each other.
Wow.
And I realised at that point that had an impact on, because kids don't listen to what we say, they watch what we do. As I keep saying, when the words and the actions don't match, they'll always go with the actions. And so we treated each other with respect. I managed to get her to come in and start co-parenting the boys. And at that point, the boys were seeing that, their mates were seeing it, and they were wondering what was going on, and questions were being asked. But it was a lesson to all of them. But it was later on I learned that when one party bags their ex, the end result is the child is made up of both parents. And so when you bag, say, your ex-husband, or man bags his ex-wife, you're telling your kids that half of them is no good, because they are a makeup of both parties. And so the one who does the bagging and complaining and whinging about their partner is the one who will destroy their relationship with the child. They may destroy a relationship and keep their ex-partner away, but they will lose the child. They've lost the respect. So no matter what the relationship is with the ex, it's a matter of, well, how can I help to co-parent the child? If the father's completely absent, then find the right sort of men to be around. They don't have to be in a relationship with you, but you need to have men around, because we know from all the research that the males who commit the greatest crimes against women came from fatherless families. And so we need the role models. So if the husband and wife are separated and the father's gone completely, to the mums, I'd always say, find good role models to have around them, male role models, so the boys can then be taught and guided along the way. Because if a woman tells, this is one of the things, as my boys grew up, I remarried, that marriage broke down, but by that stage, my youngest was living with his mother, and I'd take him bush and we'd go camping, and he'd come back, he was respectful to her. Then he'd be fighting in no time at all. Take him out bush, he'd be respectful when he came back. And she said, well, he doesn't love me, he doesn't respect me. And I said, well, he loves you, but he doesn't respect you. I agree with that. The only way he's going to learn that, it has to come from a male. It won't come from you or another woman. It has to come from a male. And let's face it, I'm the one who has the biggest problem with you, being your ex. So if you trust I'm doing this for him and not for you, because if I don't get him to respect you, he will have broken relationships in his life, because I didn't fully respect my mother either. And so that's one of the things that we learn by examples. And so if I couldn't be a role model to my son to teach him to respect his mother, the chances were that as they grew up, all 3 boys would have broken relationships. And so that's why I did that. But that took me a a process of learning and realizations over quite a few years to get that, because I had no male role models around me.
Yeah, wow. So much. So yeah, that's a lot of impact there. You said something and I needed to write this down. You said you're telling them that half of them is not good.
Yeah, well, if you're saying to the boy, your father's no good, then he's part father, his father. So if your father's no good, then half of him is no good. The same thing if a man's talking to either his son or his daughter about his ex, they're getting the same message. It doesn't matter which parent it's coming from. We are different, but it takes both parties. Boys and girls both need to be nurtured. Women will give the children the love, and the father will give the children the discipline that they need. And the two of that things together, that's when they have the right boundaries to move forward in a successful life. Without it, you got one side of the boundary missing, and they just go off in the wrong direction far too often.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can recognize that, hey, especially how you've mentioned in families where they've had fatherless homes as well. So, yeah, wow. Some really awesome topics there, especially because Rock and I, we were talking about parenting styles the other day. She thinks she's a helicopter mum, and she showed me this Asian family who were really strict in their tiger parents or something. And then we were thinking about fathers as well, and thinking, oh gosh, what are our husbands like as dads? And there's so many different dynamics and personalities, as you would know, just in one, in one home. So having a couple of children as well. So some really interesting topics there. Also the fact that my oldest son's biological father lives in New Zealand, and my husband is his father, and I can see how important it is to have a male role model, and I've really noticed how much I needed that as well, because I'm not a male and I have no idea what it's like to be a 15-year-old teenager in 2021. As well as being a male, and I'm not a father either, and I can teach my sons the best that I can, and how to be respectful and love, but I've come to a bit of a halt because I don't know how to teach my son how to be a man, and he's in this age now where he needs to learn how, and I do feel incredibly blessed to have a wonderful husband and man in a family who can be that role model. So yeah, it is important, and it can do wonders as well. So yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted to share that as well. I wanted to quickly move on and ask you, there's a couple of other things that you do. Can you talk to us, Ellen, about the Campfire Project, please?
Well, Campfire Project, we came from all the work I was doing in business with helping people read each other, and particularly men. I found that most men didn't know their role at work anymore because they're always worried about gender equality and political correctness and saying the right thing. The way they used to be able to talk, they couldn't do anymore, and that was an issue. So I looked at it and went, okay, that's one issue, but also they didn't know their role at home either, because at home they thought it was to go out and earn. That's how they love the family. And this is the problem. Men will go out and earn to show their love and therefore be away from the love. And so the end result is we've now got these men going, well, I don't know my role at home. I'm supposed to be here and emotional and connected and everything else, and I've got to be out there making money. I can't be doing both. And all the other things will go, how do I watch what I say? I've got to be really careful and not being taken the wrong way. And I realized that men in particular needed a safe place where they could come and tell their stories. So I believe it's a community's role, their responsibility to create a safe place for men where men can come along and give themselves permission to tell their stories. So I started the group mainly for men, but I had women in there from day one, simply because I didn't want this to be another men's group. I wanted this somewhere where the men could come and also engage with women and know whether they were moving forward from where they thought they were in the past. And so I started interviewing the men, and we covered all sorts of, they tell their stories. Then I bring them into panel discussions, and in the panel discussions, we talked about, masculinity, femininity, pornography, drugs, alcohol, you name it. And then it was that point the women were sending me personal messages going, we love these guys. We've never heard men talk this way. So that was one thing I was looking for, was to let the women hear them. And then they said, how can we get involved? And I went, put your hands up. I've been waiting for it. So we then brought the women into the one-on-ones and into the panel discussions. In just over 3 years, as of the 13th of August, we've had well over 400, about 450 hours now of interviews and panel discussions, and well over 300 one-on-one discussions in that full number of hours. And not once has there been any sexism, racism or bigotry, and no one has been disrespectful in any of those conversations. And we've even moved these conversations on to talking about menstruation, menopause. Does size matter in the bedroom? Nothing is off the table. We will talk about it, and in every way we've proven that when you set the criteria up, the agenda, that and tell everybody, if you're not respectful, you're out, and they know we mean it. You answer 2 questions to get in, and both those questions are, will you be respectful to people? Same question, but asked in 2 different ways. And they go, why the same question twice? And I go, there's your 2 chances. You don't get a third. The moment you're rude to somebody in the group, you're out until you can prove yourself worthy to come back in again. And everybody's got a story. So a lot of people come in and go, but, why should I, I don't really know whether I should share my story. I've really got nothing to talk about, when they've heard some of the horrific stories others have been through. And I go, well, everybody on the planet's uniquely different. There are no 2 people with the same personality overall. So with that, you have a story like everybody else. Therefore, your story is different to everybody else, and therefore it's unique, and therefore it has value, same as you do, regardless of who you are. We don't care about religion. We don't care about gender. We don't care about the cultural backgrounds or anything else. When you come in, everyone's treated with respect. And we've had, men of all ages. The 99-year-old's the oldest person I've interviewed. The youngest to run an interview, where he interviewed his father and researched his own questions and conducted it for an hour, or best part of an hour, was 9 years old at the time. And then I've had Tony from over in Hawaii, who was a woman until the age of 24. And then Ashley down in Victoria, who was a man until the age of 51. And so we've heard their stories. And to sit and listen to somebody tell their story is a gift that we receive. We give them that opportunity by having the safe place, but we receive at the same time, because to hear their story and understand more about them, we understand more about humanity. And hopefully that makes us a little bit more human as well.
I love that, because I love humans, and we need better places to be able to communicate and tell our truths without judgment and fear and worrying about other people's opinions and fearing telling our story because of what other people will think and what they'll say about us. And so what a beautiful, beautiful place to be able to go to and either listen to other people's stories and maybe get some inspiration and feel a little bit brave in yourself, or to allow people to share as well. Ellen, will you do us a blessing to maybe share your screen and show us where they could go and what it might look like? And obviously, guys, we'll pop in the link down below. I highly recommend jumping in the Campfire Project and having a look at some of the videos, because there's some great, brave, inspirational people there.
Okay, well, this is the Campfire Project. You can see that okay?
Yes,
fantastic. Great. So we've got the picture there. From day one was always men and women together, because that was always the intent. Never going to be single. But as you can see, we're over 2.2k members now, so it's growing quite well. But sometimes when you do a Zoom live or whatever, they come up with a blank screen. But that's a bit of an idea of the International Men's Day, that one of the panels I was on today with Ken Duncan and Jamie Dury, and Brian Steele and Raj Nandan. So again, talking about International Men's Day. We had the one last night. Again, was a Facebook Live. So there's lots of activities in there of interviews and things. At the same time, my website is all about how to read people, and especially on the success story page. That's where it comes into a whole range of different stories from people of what they've actually achieved from all walks of life.
Yes, awesome. Ellen, can you tell us one of your favorite stories? Do you have a favorite story you could share? Yeah,
well, I do. The favorite one because my passion is with children. and helping children to move forward. So we've got too many kids at school being falsely diagnosed or overdiagnosed with conditions. About 10 years ago now, I was a young boy who was 6 years old at the time. I thought I had that volume turned off. Gets you every time. No,
It does.
yeah, 10 years ago, he was 6 years old with Asperger's. The school didn't want him, the after schools care didn't want him either. And the end result was his mother was at the end of her tether with the situation. She got me to profile him. And again, I did that from his photographs because he wouldn't sit still for me. And at that point, the written report I gave her, she took it to the school and the after schools care and was quite clever in playing both against each other, telling each one the others were doing it. And if it failed, it would be on their heads. Yes. They put it in place. A year later, where they said he would never do presentations in front of the class, at the age of 7, he was. At the age of another year and a half later, they'd reduced his medication with the doctor's approval. And in fact, they didn't need the psychologist at that point. They did bring him back in when he was 14 because now the hormones were getting involved. But he's continued to grow. And as his mother keeps saying, she's never would have had that result if he'd been on the medication all the way through and what he started on, and especially if they'd added more medication, which was the request from the school for him to do, so he would fit their system. So this is why I'm passionate about this, because the more that we're able to read somebody, understand them, we can set their environment up. And the moment you think about it, you've got a child who is highly sensitive, and so we're told we've got to get him used to the public, so we take him down the shops, Christmas time, lights and noise and everything else. Not a very smart move. But if we know their personality, if we know that certain things set them off, we can structure that around them. So, and you know yourself, if you're having a good day, people smile at you, you're going to smile back. Somebody walks up to you with a scowl on their face, we look back and we feel that as well. So with a sensitive child, when you change and set their environment up to match their personality, end of problems. That's a beautiful part of it, because now you're communicating with them in the way that they need to be communicated to. And straight away, life is much better.
Simple. I love that. I love that so much. And I love how you're talking about medicine and misdiagnoses as well, purely because I've got a autoimmune and an endocrine disease. And I've just been on a journey to self-heal because I've been on lots of medication for a few years. And so I have to listen and get into more of that. I'm very mindful of your time, Alan. Am I allowed to quickly ask you about what came in the mail today?
Yep, you certainly can. I'm feeling quite chuffed about it, actually.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So everybody, today when I was quickly talking to Alan before we jumped on this live, he said that he received a couple of awards in the mail today physically. But Alan, tell us some of the accolades that you've achieved over your years and what they're for. And please show us what you've got.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was saying before, that everything's connected, and my work, my spiritual journey, the Campfire Project and everything else, everything's connected. So just recently, I couldn't go to Queensland because of the border shut down. So there was the award night with the Accolade Awards the other week. And with that, I walked away with the Social Change Maker for Australia in the silver level. And then from there into the Man of Influence, the gold level for the year. They were the two from this year, which gave me the icing on the cake that all the work I've been doing with the Campfire Project was coming together. Last year, because of the work I do with the profiling, I was also in the BX Awards for Australia and New Zealand. That was the award for the Education Business of the Year. The overall Business of the Year for Australia and New Zealand. And the last one was Business Person of the Year for the Hunter Valley. So it's sort of covered everything from education to business in general, in all the work. Of course, the stuff I do works into every industry. At the same time, that then led on to the these accolades from, or awards from the Accolade Awards. And, you know, it's confirmation to me that not so much of what I've achieved, but the impact the work I've been doing can have. So it's, again, with the Campfire Project, the hashtag is We Together. And that's the way I look at all of this. I've got these awards because of the people around me and the things that we've been able to achieve together.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's amazing. And congratulations. Have
Thank
you
you.
got a fancy shelf that you can put them all on? That'll fit. You've got 5 of them there. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, last year, I think finalist in last year and this year, 11 different awards. So it's been a busy time with it. But I find it quite unusual to actually show things off because I've never really done that in the past. I've had a few people telling me lately, Alan, you know, you're achieving this, you should be proud of. Well, I'm proud of it, but I'm also very proud of the people around me because it wouldn't have happened without all of them as well.
Yes, 100%. I'm very proud of you. And I want to say thank you for the work that you do, because without that, then, you know, we wouldn't be able to change the world, change men, change boys, help us women understand men more, have better conversations, build better relationships. What's the gold award for that you got? It was the little black one. What was that one for?
That was Man of Influence for Australia.
Man of Influence. There it is. That was my favorite one there. So there you have it. Alan Stevens, he is the man of influence, and today we got to actually I think share your accolades, because you're out there doing what I'm doing but on a massive big scale, and listening and being attentive and getting everyone to share their stories. So thank you for being here with me today so that I can show you off and show everybody the wonderful things that you are doing. Keep those awards there and keep sharing with everybody, because that actually inspires me to want to go out there and be impactful and do the work to build better relationships with not only women and mums, but with husbands and men and boys and fathers too. And that's a part of the work that I obviously need to contribute to. So thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you so much, Alan Stevens. Before we sign off, do you want to just give us one last piece of wisdom or advice? I'm sure you've got many, but one to sign off with.
There's 2 that I'd pretty much live by. And the first one is, the most important thing I'll ever learn is the next thing I learn after I think I know everything. It's the only reason why I'm still learning at my age and always will. But the other one I think is even far more important is that what we do for ourselves dies with us, but what we do for each other and for the environment is and always will be eternal. So the message to everybody, you know, the women out there, go and talk to your men, you know, ask them those questions, get into communication with them, because that way then they can find out how they can be better men, but at the same time, they'll learn more about you and that will bring you closer together. So you'll find that you'll also become a better woman as well.
Wonderful. There you have it. I've got nothing else left to say. Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you for the people who did join us today and those who are going to read and watch further on. Can we please bring you back again, Alan?
You certainly can. And I'll give you a link to a free gift to your listeners, which is a free course. It'll give them an opportunity to find out how the profiling actually works. So we'll be able to learn a couple of traits they can go in and test for themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, Alan, and to everybody there too. Bye for now.
Bye for everyone.